coming up on International Trade Focus.
Interview with CEO of FDA.
I believe we are all very mindful of the products that we consume or use, be it locally manufactured or imported. On International Trade Focus tonight, we'll be focusing on how we can all be assured that the products we consume or use are wholesome and safe. That is why we are offering our platform to the FDA to educate us more for the benefit of consumers, importers and exporters. International Trade Focus is brought to you by Ghana Free Zones Authority and Pediatric Valley Resort. My name is Anas Pio. Stay tuned. We have a short piece on the activities of the Food and Drugs Authority on our focal point segment. Stay tuned. Mrs. Delise Mimi Darko is the Chief Executive Officer of the Food and Drugs Authority. We had a somewhat public education interview session with her for her to educate us more on what consumers, importers and exporters should look out for as far as product safety is concerned. You wouldn't want to miss this. Stay tuned. Mrs. Delise Mimi Darko is our guest for today. She's the Chief Executive Officer of the Food and Drugs Authority, Ghana. She's going to tell us the role that the FDA is playing to ensure that consumers or users of various products are safe. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you too for having me.
Thank you so much. So, first of all, quickly take us through the FDA's mandate and the various types of products that are under your regulations.
Okay, so the FDA's mandate is to protect public health and safety, where products like foods, drugs, cosmetics, household chemical substances, and medical devices are concerned. So basically what the FDA would do is to ensure that all these products that I've mentioned are safe, are wholesome and of good quality. And so we would look at products like food. When we talk about food, we talk about things like water, normal food. When we talk about drugs, we talk about medicines, which are the orthodox medicines, and herbal medicines, and also things like food supplements, which are the nutraceuticals, your vitamins and things like that. When we talk about cosmetics, you know what generally cosmetics are: your toothpaste, the lotions, your creams. When we talk about household chemical substances, disinfectants, your soaps. When we talk about medical devices, your test kits, like your HIV test kits, things like condoms are medical devices. People may not know. Things like even X-ray machines are considered as medical devices. And that is the entire range that we look at. So we look at a very wide range of products. We always say that from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed, you'd have been using something that the Food and Drugs Authority regulates. That is what we do.
Right. So on the global level or under international trade laws, are there certain guidelines that regulate exportation, importation, or locally manufactured goods?
Yes, we have, internationally, we have the Food and Drugs. What we use is the Food and Drugs Act. So we have the Public Health Act 851 of 2012. So that is our acts that we use, the Public Health Act for Ghana. Internationally, there are other acts that are also used. But for us, it's the Public Health Act 851 of 2012.
So I know that here at the Food and Drugs Authority, there are various structures, various departments that ensure that the products are well regulated and so on and so forth. Can you take us through these departments and how you go about your daily tasks or chores?
Okay. So with the Food and Drugs Authority, first what I would say is that before any product can come into the country, first it has to be registered. So we have for every department we have a registration department. Now this department would look at the products that have to be registered. We look at the documentation that comes with it. So how is the product made? Is it made according to the right standard? Is it labeled properly so that the consumer knows exactly what they are buying? When the manufacturer made it, did he put the right ingredients in? Are they according to the right standard? Are there no banned ingredients in the products? We look at all those things. And then with that, I'm just trying to say it in a nutshell, we would then register the product. And once the product is registered, you can import the product into the country. At the ports, when you import the product, we have people at the ports, that is the Import and Export Control Department. They would also make sure that the products that have been registered, when they are coming in according to the right quality or according to the right standard. So the Import and Export Control Department would make sure that the products that are coming in are correct. We also have a laboratory or what we call our Quality Control Department. They also help with the registration procedures. So when the products come to the port, we sometimes sample the products at the port and we'll test them in our laboratory to make sure that what you registered is the same quality that is also coming in. Apart from that, we have what you call our post-market surveillance or our market surveillance department. That department also samples products once in a while to ensure that when the products have been brought in after registration or after importation, they maintain the right standards. So it is not just the fact that you have registered them and brought them in. When they're on the market, they are sitting in shops, they are sitting in pharmacies, they are sitting in supermarkets, or they're even on the marketplace, in the open market. We would sometimes go around and sample the products and make sure that as they are maintained, as they are on the market, they still have the right integrity, they are still maintaining the right standards. So we would also sample them once in a while. So we have them across the product range that we regulate. We have the market surveillance department. We also have our food safety department. They look at things like restaurants, they look at things like everywhere where there's food safety. They would look at even the open market. How are the market women selling their products? Are they putting them on the ground? So you'd find them going into the market and educating market women and ensuring that they teach the market women how to display their wares. That is the food safety department. They deal with restaurants, they deal with the market. We also have what we call the safety monitoring department. They also go into the hospitals. They speak to the doctors about when you take a medicine. There may be times when you may take a medicine and get what you call an adverse reaction. When you get an adverse reaction, what do? You tell your doctor that I took this medicine and I've had this reaction. I can report back to my doctor. So that is called the safety monitoring department. They look at all these things. We also have a tobacco and substances abuse. We also regulate tobacco and substances of abuse. So we have that department that also would it talks about where to smoke. So you know that in Ghana we have an administrative instrument that says that executive instrument that says that you cannot smoke in certain places. So for example, indoor smoking is not allowed. So that department is the department that does that. You can only smoke in an open place. That department looks at that. That department registers tobacco and tobacco products. That department also teaches, goes out and even educates students about the bans of smoking, the bans of using banned substances. You heard about the tramadol situation. That was a department that went out and educated in bus and transport yards, on the beach, everywhere about tramadol and other substances of abuse. So that also falls directly under the mandate of the Food and Drugs Authority. We also have what you call the clinical trials department. Our scope is so wide. Now, before every drug can even be developed, it has to go through what you call clinical trials. So that is where, in the process of developing a drug, it has to be first what you call tested in people. First, you start doing animal testing before you start testing in a small group of people, before in a large group of people, and then the drug is developed. So that clinical trials department ensures that when those tests are going on, the people who the drugs are being tested on or the products are being tested on are kept safe. So we work with research centers to ensure that when drugs are being tested, the standards are kept to, and the people the drugs are being tested in are kept safe. So those are basically the departments that we have. And just to add that we are all over the country. So we are not just in Accra. We have regional offices in all the regions. At the moment, there are 10 regions, but very soon we'll have 16 regions. And therefore, we're represented in all the regions. And whatever happens in Accra happens in every other region. So the safety, the market surveillance, the inspections in local industry. So even when we register a product, we would inspect the factory where the product is manufactured. We inspect the facilities. So we have the inspectorate departments that would inspect the facility where the drug is manufactured. So we work even with the industry to inspect and see that the process under which the drug is manufactured according to what we call good manufacturing practice, to ensure that at the end of the process, a good quality medicine comes out. So we work with industry as well. So we have a very wide scope of activity. But at the end of the day, it ensures that the right product comes out, which is of the best quality for the consumer.
You have a wide scope of
Very
activities indeed. Now, recently our markets are flooded with all sorts of products ranging from pharmaceuticals, cosmetics, food, and so on and so forth. Now, I want to know which of these category of products poses the greatest or the biggest challenge in your attempts to ensure that our markets are properly sanitized?
It depends. Sometimes somebody would say food, somebody could say drugs. I mean, it actually depends. You could say that people consume food all the time. I mean, food is not a matter of choice, right? So, for example, you would say that if I woke up every morning, I would eat. And therefore, if there is an unwholesome food on the market, it would pose a high threat, yes, to people, because it is not a choice for me not to eat. At the same time, counterfeit medicines also poses a big danger as well. So I cannot actually say which of them poses a great danger. I mean, you could also say cosmetics, because we've also found out that there are some cosmetics that also could contain certain substances that could not be there. So it is a matter of, we have to protect the consumer. And it is not for us to say which of them poses the most danger. We should be out there all the time making sure that for whatever we regulate, we ensure that we regulate it such that the consumer is protected no matter what the product is. We should be out there protecting them from every single product that we regulate, and not decide which one poses the most danger. We should do it across board and ensure that we do our work well.
So let's take a look at this scenario. For instance, I'm an importer. I've imported certain products onto the market, maybe cosmetics. What process will I go through to ensure that my product has been FDA approved?
If you are an importer, you should not have imported it before you realize it was FDA approved. So before you actually import it, you should ensure that your product has been registered. The law says that before you can import a product into the country, that product should be registered. So if you want to import a cosmetic into the country, please, you come to the FDA, or we have a website, or you can walk in and find out what the requirements for registration are. You would bring the necessary samples. We look at the sample, make sure that whatever should be on the product label is the right information. We bring the documentation, samples. We have guidelines for registration. We will then register the product according to the steps that I gave you before for registration. Once we have registered the product, we will give you what we call a certificate of registration. Once that is done, you can then go ahead and import the product, because we would have given you a registration number, a certificate of registration, then that shows that the product has been approved by the FDA. Once you've done that, you can go ahead and import, and would issue you with an import permit, yes, to import the product, and then you can import into the country.
I'm asking this because I want to find out how unwholesome products or cosmetics, for instance, are able to get onto our markets if we have to go through all these steps even before we import such products.
Okay, so in every market there will be products that would come in that are not registered. I forgot to tell you that we are a country that has a lot of land borders. Okay, so yes, there will be unregistered products on the market. There are times when some people may knowingly or may unknowingly bring in products. If you unknowingly bring in products, we will bring you into compliance and let you do the right thing. If you knowingly bring in products, we will ensure that you do the right thing. But we also have border offices. So we are at most of the borders, not all of them, because we will not always, we are trying to get to all the borders. So we're at Aflao, we're at Lubo, we're at Gonokrom, we are at some of the borders in the northern part of the country. But you know, Ghana has a lot of land borders. So sometimes we do get things that come in through the borders that we don't know. We try and catch them before they come in. If there are products that should not be on the market, we will safely dispose of them. And if they have come in and the products that can be registered, we have sanctions for them. If you bring in an unregistered product, you can be sanctioned. We will then bring the products into what we call bring it into compliance. So you have to register the products. The products will be detained until you have gone through the right process. Once you've gone through the right process, then you can go ahead and sell the products. After you've gone through the registration process, you can go ahead and sell the products after that. But because of our borders, we do have some of these things coming in once in a while.
So there's some wholesome products that are on the market. They're able to stay on the market for quite some time. So why does this happen? Is it that you're not vigilant enough?
We would be 100% vigilant, but we do not see everything. So we can be 100% vigilant, but we will not see everything. So we do rely on consumers to actually also help us to do it. So that is why we do a lot of consumer education. So one of the main ways of every regulatory system surviving internationally in most parts of the world is to educate the consumer. So we do a lot of consumer education. We actually have a consumer education department that is always on TV, is always on radio. So as I'm sitting here, I'm doing consumer education. It's always on TV, it's always on radio. We have social networks, social media. And we try and educate the consumer on what a registered product should be. What do you look out for on a registered product? So a registered product should have an English label. So if you see a product on the market that does not have English, immediately know it's not a registered product.
Really?
Yes. So if it has only a foreign language, it is not a registered product. If it has, if it looks a certain way. So we try and educate the public on some of these things so that if any member of the public sees anything, we immediately have telephone numbers, we have hotlines, we have WhatsApp lines, we have a Facebook account. You immediately inform us and then we can get there. Because no regulatory agency has all the resources to be everywhere at the same time. I mean, we are in every region, but we are not in every district, for example. So we will not be everywhere, but at least if we get the consumer to also give us information, then we can get there. Once we have the information, we will get there. But we rely a lot on educating the public to be able to tell us things when they see them. And then we also go out and then we try and find out some of these things. But yes, there may be products on the market that are not the right standard. But as soon as we see them, we do what we have to do and safely dispose of them.
Mrs. Denise Mini Darkon, the Chief Executive Officer of the Food and Drugs Authority, is our guest for today. Now, after the break, we'll be asking her some of the challenges that her outfit faces in their line of operation. Watch International Trade Focus. We'll be back shortly. A warm welcome back, Mrs. Denise Mini Darkon, the CEO of the Food and Drugs Authority, is our guest for today. So before the break, I promised that we would talk about some of the challenges that you face in your line of operation.
So challenges. If I had my own way, we would have offices everywhere in the country. I mean, that would be the way to be super efficient. We have over 100 districts in this country, in fact, more than that. And it would be good to have one district, one FDA officer. I mean, that would be the good thing to do, but we don't. Staffing could be one of our challenges, yes. We have to be everywhere. We are supposed to protect the public, and it would be good to have the right number of staff to be able to do our work as efficiently as we can. But I mean, even with the staff that we have, we are managing. So yes, that is an international problem with every regulatory authority. So we are managing with the staff that we have. If we did have more, we would be actually more efficient. But even with what we have, we do well. We take up as many national service people as we have year in and year out. And we manage to do our work as efficiently. Another challenge is compliance of the importers, right? So if there's a law that says that every product that comes onto the market should be registered, it would be good if importers complied with the law. If big importers and big traders complied with the law, or even the smaller traders, because compliance with the law actually helps regulators to be able to do their work. So that is some of our challenges. People not complying with the law is also a challenge because obviously it makes the work more difficult, and it also makes it difficult for us to protect the public the way we're supposed to. Basically, those are our main challenges, being everywhere. And obviously people are not complying with the way they should comply, then it makes our work actually a lot more difficult. But that is the challenge of every regulator, no matter what you're regulating. People complying and you having enough people to do the work that you're supposed to do.
So what are some of the policies or reforms that the FDA is bringing on board this year to make sure that your operations are even more effective?
We have to be technologically, we have to go with the times. So we're coming up with a few ways. Somebody asked me one time, how do you know that a product is registered? And we have to also keep up with the times. So we're coming up with a few ways of telling. So very soon, if you pick up a product and you want to know whether it's registered, you would be able to tell by just using an app on your phone to tell whether it is a registered product or not. At the moment, you'd have to go on our website. And if you actually go on our website, if you pick up a product, you can tell by just going onto our website whether it is a registered product or not. But we want to make it easier for the consumer. So very soon, there's an app that is coming out probably by the middle of the year, which can immediately tell you if it is a registered product or not, which would help. At the moment, for every locally manufactured product, it should have the FDA registration number on the product. So if you pick up a locally manufactured product and there's no number, you know it is not registered. Unfortunately, we can't do the same with imported products for some technical reasons. But we're coming up with that. We're coming up with a lot more public education. We never used to be on Facebook, but we are now on Facebook. We're now on Twitter. Our Facebook page is very active. Our Twitter is very active. So we're trying to become a lot more interactive. I mean, you can post questions, you can have conversations with us. We're coming up with easier ways to communicate basically with the FDA. We're becoming a lot more, apparently we're not friendly before, but we're hoping to becoming a lot more friendly with every level of the public. We're very soon going to rebrand ourselves. You'll hear about it very soon. I don't want to reveal too much, but very soon you'll hear about the way we're rebranding ourselves so that we can become, we are regulators, but at the same time we protect the public. So we need to make sure that the public can come to us if there's a problem and not put ourselves in a certain line that makes ourselves difficult to be approached, because otherwise we won't hear anything. So we're trying to bridge that gap between ourselves and the public and make ourselves a lot more friendly. So we hear about things as soon as they go wrong, or before they go wrong, actually. I shouldn't say as soon, before they go wrong, we hear about it. So we can react a lot quicker. We are not always firefighting. That's not what we want to do. So that's what
Let's talk about this. From time to time, you would see on the news that the FDA has destroyed a large number of products, either by burning or by burying, and so on and so forth. Let's just talk about that. What goes on before the FDA decides that we'll take this huge number of products and then destroy them?
Okay, so we like to use the term safe disposal.
Okay.
We don't like to use the term destroy. Business people don't want to hear that. So there are several times when we do a safe disposal. Believe it or not, sometimes it is actually the importer. So sometimes it is initiated by the importer. So sometimes there are people who would import things and they cannot sell, and the things would expire. So for that, we would ask that the law says that don't dispose of anything without the FDA. So even if you have things in your supermarket, in your pharmacy, in your shop, and it expires, you are not allowed to dispose of it without telling the FDA. So sometimes if we dispose of something, that may be the reason. There are other times when we will dispose of something because there's something bad that has come onto the market. And to protect the public from using it or from consuming it, we would have to take that regulatory action and dispose of it safely. So that is when we dispose of it. So somebody brought in something, we found it, we have to dispose of it to protect the public. We would then go ahead and do that. So that is a regulatory measure that we have to take to protect the public. That is the second time that we do a safe disposal. That is probably when you hear about it. But the other times with that, it is sometimes the importer who says, I have these things, in accordance with the law, I need to get rid of them because I am not using them or they have expired on me. Can you please do what you have to do in accordance with the law? Then we do a safe disposal. So it depends on what you hear. So sometimes food expires. You cannot, once it has expired, you cannot use it for the public. We'll do a safe disposal.
So let's talk about food safety. What's the issue on the ground as far as food safety is concerned? Are people complying?
Yes, people are complying. There was, I would say that before there was not, sometimes people do not understand. People believe that when food expires, or when we say food is best before, it is okay to eat. It is not the case. If I have something in my home and I decide that I want to eat it because it is expired, that is my own business. But you should not put it out and offer it for trade. For that reason, you should take it off the shelves and it should be safely disposed of. That is the law. So food that has gone past its best before date or past its expiry date should not be offered to the public. It should be taken off the shelf and it should be disposed of. Otherwise, it can pose a food safety hazard. So that is the law. And food like that should be disposed of. So sometimes we hear about us disposing of a certain quantity of expired rice, expired tomato paste, expired chicken. And sometimes people think that we are spoiling food that could be good. But there's a lot of bacteria that could actually have grown in certain foods. Sometimes you don't know what it is. But once that date has passed, no supermarket, no importer should offer it for sale. Food safety issues are also not just to do with expiry date, it has to do with the way food is stored. So sometimes when you go out to the supermarket or you go to any facility, even if it is a restaurant or if it is a food eatery, just make sure that if you're going to buy something cold, make sure that the freezers are actually working. If you're buying anything, make sure that it is stored at the right temperature that it's supposed to be stored in. Those are all food safety issues. If you're buying something in a tin or in a can, today I picked up something somewhere and the can was bloated. You heard, I think about 2 months ago or a month or so ago, we destroyed some canned fish where it was bloated. All those are food safety issues. That means that bacteria has grown or certain organisms have grown, which is what has caused the cans to expand. Those are all food safety issues, and people need to understand that when that has happened, you cannot use it because that means that certain bacteria or certain organisms have grown. That could actually cause you problems. It cause whoever the consumer is that you're giving it to, whoever you're serving, whoever whoever patronizes your restaurants or whatever it is, you're going to cause them problems that could end up ending them up in hospital or whatever it is. So we post these things out once in a while and tell people or tell consumers that food is one of the things that we don't have a choice over. It's not like medicines. I will not get up one morning and say, oh, today I'm taking paracetamol for the sake of it. I need to be ill to take medicines. I need to want to use a cosmetic to use it. But food, you don't have a choice. So please make sure that the food that you give to the public, you serve to the public, the food that you display to the public is of the right quality and it is wholesome. And that you should never, never, ever neglect on it.
So we'll end on that note, but before we go, do you have any final words?
The Food and Drugs Authority is here to protect the public health and safety. And we will continue to do our work as best as we can. And we'll always rely on people like you. Basically, we rely on the public, but as well we rely on the media to help us to do that. So whenever it is possible, we would always ask you to use your good facilities to also promote the work that we do and also to help us to educate the public. As I said, we are not everywhere and you have those sort of platforms. So whenever it is possible, as you've come here today to do this, when we are not there to be sitting in your studios, please use your facilities, your radios, your TVs to also educate the public, because we are starting from somewhere that we have not been before. So help us to educate the public on things like food safety. The world is changing and the food safety, drug safety issues are going so quickly. So whenever you hear anything that would help Ghana, to help us to move quickly, to get information on some of these safety issues, some of these drug safety issues, put the information out there in the public for us. That way you help us to do our job by educating the public. Thank you very much.
We will do that. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you. You're watching International Trade Focus. We'll be back shortly. Stay tuned. As usual, it's been another educative episode of International Trade Focus. This week's International Trade Focus was brought to you from the premises of the Food and Drugs Authority, FDA. Join us same time next week for some more on international trade-related activities in Ghana and beyond. International Trade Focus is brought to you by Ghana Free Zones Authority and Pediatric Valley Resorts. My name is Anna Spio. Thank you so much for your company. Good night.